Welcome everybody to another great episode of Popcorn Talk. With me today is
The host with the most, Ethan Dominguez.
and a special guest.
I'm Dr. Fanuzzi, and I've frustrated screenwriter producer my whole life. So thank God this finally happened.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for being here with me to talk about these topics that we have, especially the big one, as I guess we can say the big one about this idea of Planet of the Apes, talking about the end of the world.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the 60s and 70s. In fact, I'm a child of the 60s and 70s. And these were the movies that really changed the way that people went to movies and understood science fiction. Before there were superheroes, these were the movies, the big high concept, flipped world movies that got people thinking, wow, science fiction is the place for big ideas.
Yeah.
And Charlton Heston was a big part of that. He was actually seen as like the intellectual male figure in movies, interestingly. Yeah, so can I just talk about three movies he made? And because we want to talk about Planet of the Apes then and Planet of the Apes now. And we have this theory that they're operating on two separate timelines, but are they?
It's a nice theory to think about and a
It
nice
is.
theory to really rattle the mind on about.
Yeah, so in the 60s, Charlton Heston struck gold with Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
And the scenario there, it was released the very same year of the 1968 presidential election. And the winning candidate, Richard Nixon, had run this ad that said, vote as if the whole world depended on it. And you know who the producer for the ad was?
Who?
Roger Ailes.
Really?
Yes, Roger Ailes, creator of Fox Network, was the campaign manager for Nixon.
Wow.
And he created this very cinematic portrayal of a world going to pot, right, in Nixon's TV ads. Basically American Carnage, right, if you update to Trump's inauguration speech. So then Planet of the Apes came out, and it was, on the one hand, a paranoid movie about what happens if the apes take over, right, because you do know the trick, right? He's not really in another planet, he's on Earth.
He's on Earth, yes.
So the whole thing was to flip the people who we thought were below us are now ruling, and the people who were at the top of the food chain, they're at the bottom of the food chain. Okay. So it was a paranoid movie and he was brilliant when he said, "Get your hands off me, you damn dirty apes." I mean, theaters went wild. But the cool thing about that movie was that it was actually starred a lot of people who had been victimized by McCarthyism. So they portrayed ape society as being repressive, and that Charlton Heston introduced new ideas, the idea that there could be a talking man, not a brute man. And so the Zira, Kim Hunter, she was actually a blacklist victim. Yeah, so that was one of her first movies back, and it was both a conservative and a liberal movie.
Okay.
Right after that, he did Omega Man,
Okay.
and after that, he did Soylent Green. So the three of them are looked upon as the last man on earth movies.
Okay.
And it was always Charlton Heston, one man against the odds, one man's against a changing world. So I was interested to hear what you thought about how did the reboots revive and adapt this end of the world scenario? Because in the 60s, it was very much the white man is into an ape world, and then it flipped with Escape. Remember, the apes are in a white world.
Yep.
So it was basically a black and white scenario with one on top, one on the bottom, and then a lot of flipping just for fun.
Yeah.
So what happened in the remakes?
So in the reboots, it's all scientifically. So all the apes are being hunted down based on wherever their habitations are, and they're being tested. This new drug type discovery that the scientists made in order to boost intelligence, reactions, and everything on the apes' part to help a new civilization, in case a new civilization ever started. And this one ape, Bright Eyes, the mother of Caesar, ends up getting killed, and her son gets orphaned and raised by James Franco's character, who ends up growing up to become Caesar, who shows a type of hatred towards humans because of what they've done to his ape family, and because of that starts a whole uproar of a riot against the humans in order to gain their home back, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
A form of taking back their land. from
All right.
them.
So let's remember. So this is Caesar, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you know Caesar is the star of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes, I do.
We have to think about this theory. Are they the same? Are they in the same timeline?
You could say that because if you take the word conquest, it kind of relates both films because you take a character like Caesar who doesn't want to kill but just wants to take back what was originally his, what was originally theirs.
They are similar.
So they are similar in the fact that you have Caesar rescuing his fellow apes in order to take back, to conquest back the land what was his.
Conquest came out. I know it came out in the mid '70s because
I want to say 76.
I think you're right because I went to my friend's birthday party, and we were like the prime viewing age for Planet of the Apes.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, but it was set in the 1990s, and I remember that. What 1990s seemed like the end of the future.
Of the futuristic
Yeah.
word, yeah.
So then in the reboots, there's a Caesar, and it's like present day, right?
Yeah.
2000s.
So it's mid 2000s, actually 2010, I want to say.
Okay.
And what the reason that everything is happening so fast is because the drug that they were using to test on the apes
Yeah.
ends up going viral, ends up killing millions of people, it mostly kills 3/4 of the population.
Okay.
Essentially, it's called the simian flu. So it all started because one scientist got in contact with the apes, experienced side effects including bloody noses and weakness and dizziness, and eventually dies.
So it's a little bit like Z Nation, a little bit like a zombie movie, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The flu ends up traveling person to person until what's crazy, towards the end of the first, they show the neighbor gets sneezed on by the scientist,
I love that
and
scene.
he contracts the illness, and he's a pilot. So you see the times and all the places he's going, and it just, as you can imagine, it just starts spreading like wildfire until the next film, Dawn. I love how the titles of the movies each like depict what the overall movie is going to be. Rise, meaning the rise of the apes. Dawn, meaning a dawn of a new era, a new world that's done because of this flu, where it's the little bit of humans versus whatever apes, the greatly increasing of apes. And then war, meaning a war for a new world, essentially. And the reboots did a great job on that.
Which is your favorite of the three?
War.
Oh, really? Is that the last one?
War is the last one. War just seems to close everything up perfectly. War has a great mix of each movie into it, and actually does that as the introduction. It talks about, a whole story in the beginning before the movie starts, and it shows the rise of this led to the dawn, and now they're at the pinnacle, which is the war.
Yeah.
And if you remember from the second, the humans call a whole fleet over to take on the apes, which essentially you can call a war. And they basically battle out, but it's just a very emotional way. And if you do notice it does sort of indicate a new dynasty with what the original 60s films was.
So the humans are hanging on to a world in the reboots.
Yes.
Far longer than they should be.
Yes.
Right? And they're barricaded, I think, in Rise.
Yes, they are barricaded, but there's a lot more of them because this is fresh off
The virus.
So there's a lot more. They don't really know what's going on, rather than if you look at Dawn,
Yeah.
there's a small little city that are struggling to survive on their own regardless of the apes, but they have like their own type of fighting force. But then also there's an ape that is the villain, which is Koba, who is also trying to just take over everything and kill all the humans and just wants it to be just full of apes.
Yeah.
But then like each message is all, first one is revenge, doesn't want anything to happen. The second one, it's a peaceful thing because they realize humans and apes are very similar. And then the third one is just the idea of forgiveness and peace and just wanting to move on. No more wars, no more anything.
Yeah.
So it really does show they want a clean slate, a fresh new idea of a new world that can coincide with each other.
Yeah, the new world is beautiful. The
Mm-hmm.
new world is not technology in the world.
It's fresh air, nature.
Yeah.
In the ending, it's just sun and just apes living.
That's when, can we spoiler?
Yeah, why not?
So Caesar dies
Yeah.
to his wounds, which is a very emotional part. I cried,
Yeah.
but don't say that to anyone.
We won't. Yeah. No one's listening.
No one's gonna know about this.
But just that idea how Caesar started such a strong civilization where they don't need him anymore in order to prosper.
True. Yeah.
Because now they have people that have been there from the beginning, like Maurice, the orangutan or other types of strong leaders, and they also have the sons of Caesar to live that legacy on.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice way to be like, that era is over. It's time to start a new world.
It is. It's the Moses story too, because he doesn't make it.
Yeah,
But I forget who it is. Is it his cousin? Moses dies, but Joshua makes it.
Yeah.
I forget the relation. I'm going to embarrass
I
myself.
think that's his son.
it's the son,
Yeah,
right?
Joshua's the son.
That's his son? Okay, all right.
So it literally is like that. But it's just that idea where it also sort
Do you
of
think anybody else has caught that, by the way?
Probably not. They probably have made other types of comparisons. No, we're probably the first ones to be like,
We were
Bible
trying to,
relations.
yeah, before we came on, we were trying to figure out if it's Caesar and Cornelius. Does everyone know the relationship?
I think
You ought to
they're
talk about
very
that.
brief about it, because Blue Eyes is the first son, and Blue Eyes is very dived in terms of his story in the second film. But when it comes down to the third one, you see Cornelius and you know he's the son and everything. But then after the whole soldiers kidnap the apes and force them into labor, you really just briefly find out about it.
So, could Cornelius, in this new reboot, be both the son of Caesar and the father of Caesar?
It's a potential. It could be a whole legacy. It could continue where Cornelius loses his father, but now has that concept that he now has to take over because his son Blue Eyes is dead.
Yeah.
His brother Blue Eyes is dead. His mother's dead. His father's dead. He's on his own, essentially, with the rest of the apes.
Yeah.
So he knows what his father has done briefly because he saw what his father did throughout the lifespan that he had with him. But you can potentially have that idea where Cornelius will now take whatever his father did. If he ever has a family of his own, he now knows that could be Caesar. And then that Caesar takes over once Cornelius is gone. It's just a recurring circle, if you will, of just the same.
So he could then build the ape civilization that Charlton Heston discovered.
Exactly.
You
You
think
could
that'll
consider
happen? We're not talking about
No. Yeah.
the unmentionable.
We do not talk about the Tim Burton Mark Wahlberg duo
Okay,
film.
just to make that clear, everybody. Yeah, we're talking about the return to the 1968
Yes,
timeline.
we talk
now.
about the canon films here,
Yeah.
but it could because there's no more humans, because in the reboots the only humans that Caesar ends up having a relationship with or stays connected with are both James Franco's character is dead. He dies from the flu. But the character from the second film, we don't know what happened to him after they left. So he could potentially still be alive and still be in works with him, or because there's still probably humans left.
Yeah.
Very little, but there's probably still humans left. But it could potentially work, but you could have Caesar in that place of that person who saves the civilization and builds a new one. But then whatever he leaves, his son takes over.
So we don't know if there's any more humans left for the next movie,
Exactly. And
or where the conflict's going to come from.
yes, because this trilogy is over. The conclusion was War for the Planet of the Apes. That was the Caesar trilogy. It's done.
Oh, we're done.
For this, we don't know if another trilogy, we don't know if any other reboots will be
So
made.
it's not Matt Reeves, right? Because he's
Matt
moved
Reeves
on.
did second and third. If they were to probably make another one, he would probably be up for it because he's incredible. And even though I liked,
We can't distract Matt from his present job, though,
no, we can't.
which
but
is saving Batman.
well, we'll see what happens. There's a chance, but I really enjoy his work with Planet of the Apes, and I'm pretty sure he would be on board with another one.
He's very thoughtful and compassionate. No, as a director, really, he wants everybody. He wants to find some. I can't say humanity, but you know what I mean.
No,
Dignity. Yeah, it's different than the original because the original was very good guy, bad guy.
Yeah.
There's something wrong that led people to do this. And the last scene, right, is pounding the ground and saying, "You finally did it,"
Yeah.
and it's the
They finally
Statue
did
of
it,
Liberty.
and yeah.
So all that time in the original, everybody should know they're actually in Bergen County,
Yes, exactly.
New Jersey.
So yeah, in the end, we could say that both the original and reboot are connected in a very timely manner. We could say that at some point they will be connected in the time plot.
Do you think there's still a sense? See, fear drove the first one. Is there fear driving the reboots?
No, I feel like they have been taking such great chances and such risky chances to the point where if they were to have this idea of another film, they would be all for it without any hesitation.
Yeah, but I think a lot of this, people's ethical concerns for animal testing was very much part of the first movie. And I
Yes.
think we're disposed to get behind the apes immediately.
Yes.
And that's not the case in the 60s.
No.
You were rooting, you were with the humans. You were not with the apes. You had to be taught to like some of the apes, and they were
Yes.
the chimpanzees. This is complete. We're animal lovers now.
No, yeah,
we're in
exactly.
their world. We're in their world.
Exactly.
They got us.
Yes. So that will wrap it up for today. Thank you, Dr. Fanuzzi, for being here. And
That's too bad.
yeah, we'll definitely pick this up at a later date, but this was definitely this was a great topic to talk about.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
very much for having me.
Thank you so much. This is Ethan, and thank you again for watching Popcorn Talk or listening to Popcorn Talk.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Come in next week to hear another talk. Bye.